Hello. Today we want to update you on the latest negotiation information and talk about the upcoming NLRB certification election. I want to start by addressing a question that we have heard from many of you. Why did the Guild endorse the previous TAs? Each of the TAs provided pharmacists with enhancement to the current contract. Each time we brought you an offer, it was because your negotiation team felt it had reached an endpoint in our conversation with Kaiser, and you needed to weigh in. And each time you spoke, by rejecting the TA, it gave us the ability to restart the conversation and move it forward. That's how bargaining works. Following the rejection of the January TA, the Guild re-engaged in multiple discussions with Kaiser to lay out the concerns that our membership demanded Kaiser acknowledge. The rejection of the last TA signaled that more was needed to reach a point where pharmacists were being treated the same as all other employees. We put a proposal on the table that mirrored what UNAC is promising you. Kaiser told us that was a non-starter. They would not agree to this for the Southern Cal pharmacists. Today, Kaiser gave the Guild an official last, best, and final offer. It's identical to the rejected TA. This is not surprising. With the decertification vote going out this Friday, Kaiser is waiting because they do not want to risk being charged with favoring UNAC or the Guild and the financial repercussion of such a charge. They don't care which union wins. Kaiser will sit down with their current position whenever bargaining resumes, whoever's at the table. And the Guild is ready to be at the table for you and continue this fight. Kaiser clearly and consistently stated its bargaining goals in the recent negotiation with NUHW, who underwent a week-long strike and still has no contract, and Big Five in Hawaii, another week-long strike and no contract situation. As much as the CNA wage increases and their recent contract have been touted, the actual CNA agreement contains major takeaways, including changes to current active medical copays and, yes, a cap on retiree medical. It was a bargain, much like the 6.66% wage increases for pharmacists in exchange for the defined pension in 2011. We know Kaiser will throw money to get the changes it wants in benefits. Kaiser has decided it is willing to hold their line in the sand and withstand strikes and labor unrest to achieve their goals. This is the truth, and no magic LMP or UNAC wand is going to change that reality. Although Kaiser does not care which union represents the pharmacist, you should care, because the union you select in the upcoming election has long-term repercussions. You need to consider the historical experience of pharmacists that came before you and left other unions to join the Guild because their voice was ignored. Larger unions did not guarantee better contracts for pharmacists because the larger union had majority non-pharmacist members who did not understand what the profession of pharmacy is about and the unique needs pharmacists have. Unions eventually always put the needs of the majority stakeholders before the needs of the minority. And until pharmacists joined the Guild and became the majority voice, their needs were not met. The Guild has negotiated significant increases in wages, benefits, and protections over the past 30 years, and we stand ready to continue to do so for the next 30 years. There are real risks in choosing to go to UNAC. First, you cannot possibly have a contract until the end of 2015. Despite the rosy timeline projection UNAC has published, the fact is it took the therapist 11 months from decertification to having a signed contract. The 8 months they are citing is only the bargaining window, not the full timeline. And the therapist didn't have a big issue like pension restoration. Kaiser also has lots of negotiations open right now, and it will be hard to find the time in the calendar to accommodate the projected 35 full days of bargaining it will take to close a new UNAC pharmacist contract. Kaiser is in no hurry to rush anything that costs them more money, so you may well not be looking at a contract until 2016. Although it is true UNAC membership means you could eventually be part of the LNP, that does not occur until you have a signed UNAC contract. So even if the LNP approves a new 2015 national agreement this October, you will not get the LNP raises, benefits, or anything else until you have ratified a UNAC contract. The whole time you remain without a contract, you have no ability to arbitrate anything Kaiser does. So if Kaiser decides to hire temporary pharmacists, or your manager works on the line to replace part-time and per diem hours, which is not allowed under the Guild contract, you will have no recourse to fight it. And UNAC, although they are promising to represent you, they cannot use the grievance and arbitration procedure in the Guild contract, which is the way to get Kaiser to comply with your current contract provisions. You have limited recourse, and that limited recourse, which is filing an unfair labor practice, is a long process, unlike the grievance and arbitration process, which the Guild is able to use. Decertifying also means the recently filed unfair labor practice against Kaiser regarding target outsourcing will be dead in the water. And if Kaiser expands the target or any other outsourcing, you again will have limited recourse. The contract will also start from scratch. And although UNAC is telling you they will start from the Guild contract and they never have any problems, the truth is Kaiser is under no obligation to keep any provision of the Guild contract. And given the position of the new Kaiser, that is a strong possibility. This could also be the last time you are able to do local bargaining. Under the LNP, both the employer and unions have to agree to do local bargaining as part of the national agreement process. It is not a guarantee when the contract ends. Besides the risk, there are a lot of myths flying around the internet. I am not going to review all of them, but do want to address some of the most fantastic. End of the day, anyone can shade the truth, promise you the moon and the stars, but reality doesn't change because of magical thinking. The Guild has always tried to be straight with pharmacists and always will. That is a guarantee you can count on. What is the first myth? That UNAC affiliates have better benefits. The truth is, UNAC affiliates all have different benefits, and most of those benefits you already enjoy. UNAC has not been able to negotiate a common set of best benefits for all its members. This UNAC chart clearly shows each group is different. All of the recently added groups, the specialty RN, midwives, and therapists, have flexible benefits and $20 copays just like you. The groups with the higher pension multipliers and having both a defined benefit and defined contribution plan had these benefits prior to joining UNAC. UNAC did not negotiate these as new benefits for them. The rank and file nurses, listed on the left-hand column, which comprise the vast majority of Kaiser nurses represented by UNAC, have a defined benefit plan only, do not have an additional defined contribution plan. So if UNAC could not bargain this for their other affiliates, why would you believe they can bargain it for pharmacists? Another myth, massive power is in numbers. It's not simply a case of numbers, it's about effective numbers. The Guild is over 4,000 strong. What better place to show the strength of pharmacists than to stand with all of Kaiser pharmacists in the Northwest, North Cal, and Southern Cal regions. The Northwest pharmacist contract expires in April of 2015. The Northern Cal pharmacist contract expires in May of 2015. By staying with the Guild, the Southern California pharmacists can align themselves with the entire West Coast of Guild pharmacists, and together we can roar. UNAC's Kaiser affiliates, although supportive, are unlikely to delay a contract for themselves for a new group of pharmacists who make up a small percentage of their ranks. Additionally, Aligning with a largely nurse-based union means when the natural competition for clinical roles between nurses and pharmacists arises, the pharmacist will always lose. It's simple numbers. So all that "we get along" you are hearing from UNAC folks is because this conflict does not currently exist within their affiliates. Next myth. Not decertifying would be worse than calling off 2 strikes. Oh my. We could spend a lot of time talking about the merits of what happened around the strike notices, but that has nothing to do with the decision to decertify. Strike votes are about bargaining. Decertification is about who represents you, and who stands up for you, and who provides day in and day out representation of your rights. Bargaining is just part of what a union does. The Guild and your current negotiation team have worked hard for you and brought your concerns to the table. And although we have not yet achieved the contract you want, we are still fighting and are able and ready to continue to do so now. We have a greater chance of closing a contract before UNAC can, because we already know your issues and we speak your language, and we do not have to waste time learning your issues or rebuilding your entire contract. Decertifying adds turmoil to the bargaining process and gives Kaiser an edge to achieve their goals, but not yours, as it splinters the Southern Cal Pharmacist Group. United for change? I don't think so. That's not what decertifying will lead to. Another myth is that UNAC does things differently. Well, maybe that's true, and I'm not so sure you'll like how they do things. UNAC is saying they have better contract protections and can magically get better outcomes. The truth is, the Guild has better reduction in force language and has had outsourcing protection for years. Did you know the reduction in force process under UNAC for nurses and their affiliates means they have to accept new positions within the whole Southern Cal region? So, a nurse who lives in Victorville might only be offered a position in San Diego while we're under a reduction in force. In our contract, when a RIF occurs, Kaiser must offer you a position within your medical service area so you can stay close to home. UNAC also allows temporary and registry positions. The Guild does not. Isn't that really just a form of outsourcing, but doing it in your own workplace? UNAC has been ineffective in addressing the chronic short staffing of nurses. You have all seen this for years. Who suffers? The nurses and our patients. Bill Rouse has said, "We are actively working to incentivize nurses to work extra shifts and to get the company to post and fill additional positions quickly." So, UNAC's answer is to ask nurses to work more and harder. The Guild, in a similar situation in Northern Cal, in which Kaiser did not have an adequate number of pharmacists, filed an unfair labor practice against Kaiser to force them to change their practice. Obviously, there is a certification election starting this week. Many of you have indicated to us you did not like the last TA, and you told us why. It was that the TA did not make everyone whole in their pension value. And yet, we also heard you wanted to remain represented by pharmacists. We agree that pharmacists are best served by being joined with other pharmacists. If you stay with the Guild, you stay with pharmacists, arm-linked with other pharmacists to stand up to Kaiser. That is the most powerful strike force you can threaten. UNAC is promising you a whole lot. There is no reason to believe, and certainly no guarantee, that changing union representation will lead to any certain outcome, except higher dues and no hope of a contract anytime soon. You get to decide. I urge you to think hard about what is really being offered. Okay, so what do you have to do to stay with the Guild? You must vote to retain the Guild in the NLRB election. Ballots for that go out this Friday, February 13th. You have to return your ballot by Friday, February 27th. I urge you not to wait. Mark your ballot for the Guild and mail it in as soon as you receive it. If you don't get a ballot by February 18th, call the NLRB at the number on your screen, 1-213-894-5210. If you lose this number or can't find it, just call the Guild office and we can give it to you. I want to thank you for your time tonight. I've enjoyed meeting so many of you, and I look forward to working together in the years ahead. Good evening.